What's up guys, Garrett with Self-Taught Dev. Welcome back to our fourth CSS tutorial. In this one we're going to go over sizing images, borders, and background colors. So 3 pretty easy things to get down. We haven't got to the hard stuff with CSS yet. So, or at least what's hard for beginners. First off, the image. This is our image right now. If we inspect this, we've got a max width 500 pixels. So that's what's keeping it this small right now. If we turn this off, it takes up the whole screen here. So that's a little too big. We don't want it that big. You might want it this big if you're gonna have like text overlay, and you would have to make sure like the text is contrasted with the background so you can actually see the text. Because like if we had white text here, this part right here probably wouldn't show up too well. But we're gonna delete this inline style that we wrote earlier, go back to our styles here, and then that's the only image we have on the page, so we can just use the image selector here. If we had more than one image, we probably wouldn't want to use that because we might want the images to have different sizes, and if we just use image, it would select every image on the page. So if we had multiple images on there, it'd grab all of them. But we just want to target this specific one. So how we size that, we'll just say width, we'll do 750 pixels and save, and then we go back here, and as you can see, it's a lot smaller now. Now we can also adjust the height. So if we say height, let's do 500 pixels and save that. Now it's probably gonna look a little distorted because we are kind of adjusting the ratio here. Let's make it a little bit more extreme so we can see that more. Yeah, now you can see the ship's kind of stretched a little bit. Let's actually make this 6 and we'll make this 4. Yeah, so now it's like super compressed and doesn't look at all like the initial ratio was. So what we can do to fix that, we won't set the height with a pixel number. We will do height auto, and now it will automatically adjust the height based on the width of the image to keep the original aspect ratio the same. So now it's back to the original ratio. We can change this back to 750 pixels, and it's back with the original ratio. And we honestly don't even really need that right now because we're not doing anything to adjust the height. So adjusting the width on its own, it'll keep that same aspect ratio that the image has by default. Hope that's making sense. If it's not, let me know in the comments below and I will help you understand that a little bit more. But that is how you would adjust the width. Now you can also, as we were doing with the inline style, we can say max width. Max width is pretty self-explanatory. This is the max you want the image to be. So if we say max width 750 and then width 100% and save. So now this image will always try to be as big as it can, but it won't go bigger than 750 pixels. So if we inspect this page, if we inspect this page and turn on the responsive thing, we can change the size of this. And when we get down below 750 pixels, as you can see, that's 750 right here, and that's as wide as the image is. So it won't get any wider than that thanks to our max width. But if we start to go smaller, it'll still stay within the viewport. It won't overlap because we've got that 100% on there. And then there's also a min width as well. So if we just adjust this to min width 750, then we go back here. Now we've got that width 100%, so it's going to try to take up as much space as it can. And since we're not setting a max width on it, it's not going to say, hey, we can't get bigger than this. It's going to try to get as big as it can, and that's why it's taking up the whole view width here. Also, our image is pretty big by default, but if we go to like a 4K, so this is simulating a device that's 2,560 pixels wide, and our image is still stretching to take up as much space as it can. But if we turn off this is as big as the image is naturally. The image is only 1280 pixels. If we zoom in on the inspector a little bit here, too far. If we hover over this image, so this is the link where it's coming from, and you can see like by default this image is 1280 by 720 pixels. So now that we don't have that 100% width on here, it's not trying to stretch as big as it can. It's only taking up its default width and height here. So we will turn off our responsiveness tools, and then we are going to set the max width on this as, we'll just go with 500 pixels because that's what we had before and it didn't look too bad that way. But that is how you size an image. Again, if you have any more questions on that, let me know in the comments below or come hop in the Discord. There is a link to the Discord in the description. Feel free to ask me questions in there and I will help you understand this as much as I can. All right, so up next we have borders. So what should we put a border on here? Let's put borders around our paragraphs. So those all have the class card. So we'll just find where we are selecting card. We are not yet. Okay, so we'll go down here and we'll just grab the card class because all of our paragraph or all of the elements we want to style have that card class. So this, if we inspect it, you can see the p tag has the card class. This one does not actually. Neither does this one. So that might not be the right thing to grab. Or actually, I guess we can go stick that on all of the p tags down here. So we'll grab the class equals card. And this is what you usually want to do with classes. Like with classes, it's usually something you want to use over and over again. So we'll just stick it on these three. We can't grab just the p tags because, actually we could. Okay, we couldn't because we're using the p tags down here. So if we grabbed just the p tags, it would grab these blocks of text that we want, but it would also grab the ones down here too. And we don't want to style those. We only want to style these big ones right here. So with the border, we're selecting the card classes. So it's going through the document, grabbing everything that has the class card, which is just those three paragraph tags we had. We're gonna say border dash width, and we're gonna make it 5 pixels just so we can make sure it's big enough for us to see. We'll say border color, and we will make it green so nice and stands out. And then we will say border style. And we've got all of these different kind of border styles we can go with. We're just gonna go with dotted for now. The most common one you're gonna use is solid though. That's where you just have like a solid straight line. But just to change it up, we'll use dotted. Now, if we go back here, as you can see, these have a green dotted border around them. And if we inspect it here, we can just mess with this a little bit so we can see what the other border styles look like. So that's dashed, dotted, bubble. It's kind of got like 2 borders around it. And the most common one is usually going to be solid, where it's got just a solid border like this. Obviously, you usually won't have like a green, ugly, contrasting color like that. It'll be like, it just kind of depends on what you're designing. But that is how you would add a border. Now, something else you need to know with borders, there is a shorthand way, because this is 3 lines of code. It takes a little while to write that all out. There is a shorthand way. So we can just say border, solid, and we'll just say gray 1 pixel, and then we'll save. Now, this is at the bottom, and CSS cascading style sheets, right? So what's at the bottom, that's what's going to be applied. So if we go back here, now our border shorthand thing, so this has all 3 of these in it. So this has the style, the color, and the weight. And since that's the lowest on the styles, that's the one that's applied. These other 3 get overridden. And you can kind of see the gray borders here. Now, something else cool we can do with borders, we can give rounded corners, because right now, like the sharp edges here, it's kind of not the most pleasant to look at. We're actually going to adjust the width on these as well, since we've learned about width. We'll just say width 750 pixels. There we go. So now they're not taking up the whole width of the screen, because we're going to make this look a little bit better in the future. Actually, we're going to go ahead and make these 450. And then we're going to change the font size, as we learned in the last video. We're just going to make it 21 pixels. There we go. That's looking a little bit better. So we can curve the borders, the corners at least. So we can say border radius, and you can make this any pixel value you want. So we'll just go with 5 pixels, give it like a nice subtle curve here. And as you can see, those edges aren't quite as pointed anymore. Now we can inspect this again, and we can up this a little bit more. As you can see, it gets a lot more dramatic as we go up. And eventually it gets to the point where it's cutting, the text is getting outside of our border. We don't want that, so we are gonna just keep this at 5 pixels so it's nice and subtle. There's some stuff we can do to make sure the text isn't overlapping the border in the future, but we're gonna cover that next time with padding and margin. But for right now, just know that you can use border radius to curve the edges. And then something else cool we can do with borders, if we inspect this image, actually we're gonna do it in our styles here. we can add a border radius to the image. And if we say 50% and go back here, now it is oval, circular. So you can make like a cool little circular effect with percentages on the border radius, but it won't go higher than 50%. If we inspect this and click this and try to go up more, that's like as curved as you can make it. And then when we start going up, it goes out more. All right, last thing we're gonna cover in this one is background color. So on our paragraph tags here, we are going to give these a subtle little gray background. So down at the bottom of our card, we're actually gonna delete these border styles here because those are getting overridden, so those aren't even being used. So we're gonna give this a background color of Gainsborough. That looks like an interesting color. So we'll add that. And yeah, now it's got a nice little contrast from the white background here, and you can kind of tell, hey, this is like a little card. It's got its own information in here, even though this is mostly lorem ipsum text and has no meaning. So I think that's about it for this one. So we learned how to resize images and text with width. We learned how to add a border. We learned about the shorthand for border. And we learned about background colors, how to add background colors to elements. So now for the challenge on this video, we are gonna get a little bit more, I'm gonna give you a little bit more freedom on this. I want you to grab 3 or 4 elements on the page. It can be the H1, the H4, the list items, and the paragraphs, or whatever you'd like it to be, and apply a border to those, and then give them a background color like we did to this. And then if you've got an image on your page, give the image a width, so it's not just taking up the full width of the screen, or if it's small, it'll expand it a little bit for you. And then, as always, make sure you go hop in the Discord, go down to HTML Challenge 4, which I need to add 3 and 4 here, and post a screenshot of your challenge to HTML Challenge, or to CSS Challenge 4, and so I can check it out and make sure you're getting this down. And then, as always, if you have any questions, need any help, let me know in the comments or in Discord, and I will happily help you out. So if this helps you out, give me a thumbs up, hit that subscribe button so you can stay up to date and know when the next CSS tutorial is coming out and the other great content we're putting out. And I think that's about it. So I will see you guys next time. Peace.
Round 1.